Welcome back, everyone. And let's all welcome now Marian Seiss. If you don't know him, then I'm pretty sure you're in a very, very small minority here. He's a very, very active community member. He does a lot of things for you just because he is a good guy. But what you don't know about him, he also does a lot of things with us at SAP. He's quite often in my inbox, he's in Peter's inbox, and many other people pushing things so that they're better for you. So really a good guy to listen. And today he talks about something that I find personally very, very important, and it's crafting the perfect UI5 development environment. So Marian, the stage is all yours. Have fun.
I'm blushing. Thank you. Yeah, welcome, guys. For those of you who've been here yesterday, that's a familiar title because I was presenting the same thing yesterday. Just because there was the recap yesterday and only had 20 minutes. Wouter explained a lot about the BTP side of that project, and I explained just briefly the architecture, but today I have 40 minutes, so I can go a little bit more detail, show a little bit more code, and show how that actually all works together. So you can stay seated if you've been to the talk yesterday. So talking about the perfect development environment, a little subtitle, it's for my use case, the perfect development environment. But there are a lot of things you can adapt or use as well to create your personal perfect environment. What was the motivation behind that? Probably a lot of you know me for the UI5 spreadsheet importer, and I have this development environment or build up my personal development environment to be more productive. So what was the big problem? I tried to test with a lot of UI5 apps. So I would like to test for Freestyle, for Fiori Element apps, for OData v2, for v4, for all the latest UI5 maintenance versions, or 71, 108, whatever. So that sums up to a lot of UI5 apps. Plus, I have it's a component, the spreadsheet importer is a component, so I need to change something there, and then it should reflect the UI5 apps. Then I have a CAP server for all the mock data to test all the apps. And then I have an external npm package sheet.js where I parse the Excel data there. So it's already quite complex, and then we have some problems like I have created a workflow, so I built manually or the component, and then I used it in the UI5 apps, and every UI5 is separate, so I have to start it differently. Everything has a different port, so a lot of challenges, and it was really annoying over time. So I created an environment for me to help to be more productive. And I created more or less a user story because I see this in Tobias' repository. He always creates user stories. So I just created one for here too, like what I would like to achieve here. Like I want to utilize different components and services in my local development environment, because usually you have components, you have libraries, controls, and you have the BTP and ABAP. So a lot of dependencies all around. So I want to efficiently develop, test, and deploy the UI5 application, because that's what you usually do in your environment. So I don't want to present my environment for the spreadsheet importer. I created, let's call it minimal example. You see in a second, it's more or less minimal. I try to get everything in what I like to present. So I started with the CAP server because I do it mostly locally, and just create a CAP server with just the minimal bookshop example. So everything inside all the components is pretty minimal. And then just use the easy UI5 generator to mostly generate, I generate the controls and libraries and everything. Also the UI5 apps. So I used to be with OData v4 service in the CAP, and then usually have components and libraries. So I created the library with the easy UI5 generator, just simple control in there that I used. Then I created a component, and both of them I connected to the UI5 application. Then in the next step, I also want to target a little bit more towards ABAP. So I created a v2 application, and I also connected a library and a component in there, and I have to get and I created another control, just really simple control in the same repository. So that's basically I'm presenting right now my local development environment, and then I need to get the data from somewhere. So I spin up a trial instance. I'm using just the flight OData service, so I didn't create anything in there. And then, because I would like to get something else from the ABAP environment as well, you can deploy, obviously, the component to the trial system, but I would like to consume it in my application as well, so I joined that as well. So as I said earlier, like we have external dependencies, mostly coming from npm.js as well, so I'd like to join in that as well. I just published, again, minimal Hello World UI5 control in npm.js, so I consumed that as well. And another dependency, the moment library, is just a date library, just to try and test that in the UI5 application as well. And then, as I said, like I want to start as easy as possible all applications. I connected oh yeah, always forget that there's like the npm.js control. Just for fun, I added to the component as well. So it's the UI5 app is consuming the control over the component and in the app as well. Yeah, I joined then the UI5 application to the cup, and then I created a local Fiori launchpad where you can just go to the Fiori launchpad and all your apps from the local development environment are already there. Then the tooling, as I said, was really cumbersome to set it all up. Luckily, there are already available great set of tools. And I had a great help from the Super Peter to create all these toolings. He came to rescue me a lot of times. But it wasn't just Peter, like there's just a list of all the open source tooling, except for the last one. It's not really open source, just part of it, but mostly it's open source. And it's mostly also by the community. For example, Launchpad, I think Gerd is somewhere there, like Marco Bayadas, VDR5 guys from JSsoft are here. So many people are already contributing to that. And what I present is also made possible by all you guys and SAP guys. So round of applause for all the community guys. All right, then let's look at the tooling, what I used there just to connect everything. Let's start the local Fiori launchpad. As I said, Gerd developed something for the launchpad to create automatically the launchpad. So usually you create a HTML file and then the app config to make everything work together. And Gerd made something to get that generated for you. And then to connect the UI5 apps to the cup application, there's something called CDS plugin UI5. So we have the dependency just in the cup application, and it's loaded everything automatically, and all the tooling is started to make everything easier for you. Then obviously the library with the UI5 tooling, that's one of the easiest one because the UI5 tooling is running anyway. Then the component, like UI5 app is basically a component, so that's why the middleware from there is called UI5 middleware UI5 to get it in there. Then from external NPM packages, which are not UI5 controls, there's something called UI5 tooling modules. If you haven't heard of it and use the external packages, please do use that one. I still see in the community, yeah, please just use the CDN or copy the library manually and paste it in your UI5 applications. Please don't do that anymore. Use that tooling. If it doesn't work, Peter is really grateful for any feedback. He just said he had another issue he wants to tackle on the weekend for that tooling. So he really wants to help you to make all the dependencies which are made for the browser work with that tooling. And then to get everything working for the ABAP trial system, the simple proxy, you probably heard of that before, because if you spin up a new UI5 system, that's what you use to consume the OData service, and you can also consume something like the component with the simple proxy as well. Then deployment. Again, if you've been to my talk yesterday, there were 10 minutes Wouter explained for the deployment to BTP. You can re-watch that yesterday, so I will not go into detail about that. Deployment ABAP, I just explained what you need to deploy separately and what is actually packaged. So the easiest thing is the library, just publish that. There's nothing in there, every control is packaged automatically. The same with the component, in that regard, the control is always packaged in the component as well. And then for the UI5 apps, again, the controls are packaged in the UI5 app, and the same is, the tooling is doing the same thing, it's packaging everything in the UI5 app, so you don't need to deploy that separately. My component, that is deployed separately, because again, it's a UI5 app, you can deploy it as well. All right, then, what lacked yesterday, I can go into more detail today and can go to the GitHub repo. I have it here locally in my VS Code, so I'll share the link to the presentation and the GitHub repo in the end. But you can have, I will explain a little bit how I created everything and set it up. So let's start with the CAP application. As I explained, use the CDS plugin UI5, so it's here. And that will spin up the UI5 applications I have here as a dependency. So I have some custom configuration where you can just define a special YAML file which should be spun up, and I defined that in the app, in the UI5 apps. And I have here the CDS Launchpad plugin, which generates the Launchpad for me. As you can see here in the CAP application, when you've developed CAP applications before, usually what you do, you put everything what you have on front end in the app folder. You can see here, there is no app folder, because everything is loaded from outside, and I used here this mono repo structure, and everything is bound together with PNPM. I have just personal preference for PNPM. You can use npm workspace for that as well. I think just if you look in the package.json, there's this called PNPM filter, which just spins up that specific package.json. I think it works the same way with npm workspace, and you just need to change some scripts here. All right, let's just start it up and have a look what's actually is going on here. I have the start script, which just executes CDS watch, so it doesn't do anything else. And I've turned on the debug for CDS plugin UI5. You can see here, it sees the configuration, and then it's mounting the two apps that we can consume it in the CAP context. So it's mounting the app, so that's the BTP target app. And down here, it's mounting the ABAP app, so that's targeted more towards the ABAP instance. And then we go to the localhost 404. So everything here is generated. So you can see here the little UI5 logo, that's generated by the CDS plugin UI5. So you could start everything here just if you press on the index HTML, and then it's loading the UI5 applications. But again, don't want to press any single app separately. I want to have everything on one view. And then the Sandbox Launchpad plugin generates everything for you. So those tiles are generated from the manifest. So if you just go to the app, to the UI5 apps and the manifest, you can see here the cross-navigation definitions, which defines the semantic object, actions, everything you know from defining those tiles. So the great thing about that is also you can debug navigations like UI5 to UI5 navigations. And let's just go to the CAP UI5 applications. As I said, that's a little bit more basic, but I have here the library, the example library. That's just a basic control in there, which just says hello world. Then the component, which uses the external npm.js control as well. So the component, I made it to render a button, and if I press the button, it opens a dialog. And in that dialog is the external npm control. So package, package, package. Then the little bit more complicated or set up is the towards ABAP app. So I have everything here. At the top is the spreadsheet importer, which actually loads the component from the ABAP instance. So you don't need to have that locally somewhere. You can consume anything there. You can also do that with libraries, or just set it up for the component, but you can use anything from the ABAP trial instance to load. Just need to set up the proxy. Then again, there's the library, local component works the same way. And then here we have the external npm UI5 controls, which are just used in the dialog in the component. The local UI5 control, and I have here the external npm package, which just generates a current date with the moment library, and here's the data from the ABAP system. And you can have a look a little bit in the network how it's actually loading all the data. So usually I have everywhere I have the UI5 con namespace. Just not enough space. So here's just the component from the UI5 app. And then I preload the library. For example, here's a little bit small, but you can see here. Can I make it like that? So that's the URL for loading the library. And as you can see, when you execute it in the cup instance, there's always the namespace before that. So that's a little bit difficult to actually set up everything so it's not as smooth as I hoped, to make sure everything gets routed to the right source. So everywhere when you open that application in the Launchpad, there's always the namespace in between. It separates the UI5 applications. And then here we have the component. So that's the local component here. That's the control. That's also the local control. And here is, for example, the request to the backend. So again, backend also with a namespace in there. All right. As I said in package.json, the CDS plugin UI5 is loading the UI5 applications with all the tooling. So that gives you a lot of freedom to actually integrate and use the tooling I just showed you. So if you go into, for example, the ABAP application, you can see here everything what I can use to run the application. Like everything, I think, except for the controls, I generated in TypeScript. So obviously, you need a transpile step before that. And then I use the UI5 middleware UI5. You can define which YAML it's loading as well. So I have a separate YAML to load the component in there. Tooling modules. Tooling modules have a middleware and a task. So the one is for the middleware to load and run the UI5 application. The task is later on to build. And here I use the simple proxy. So here's my ABAP trial instance running on Luve, and the simple proxy again to go to the spreadsheet importer component and to the sub or OData. I also use the UI5 middleware serve framework. If you don't know about that one, that's really handy, because usually when you use the UI5 application locally, you don't have this preloads. And what that does, if you define the UI5 application locally in your UI5 YAML, it generates the preloads for you. So it's a really much smoother experience if you use that nice tooling there. All right, then look at the components. As I said, it's everything running in TypeScript. And to be honest, I didn't really know about components or how to use them before. Like I knew libraries, I knew controls, but how would I use components? You have to think about how or when to use components, but for my spreadsheet importer it was really handy because I can just deploy it, I can render something immediately if you just use it in a component container. And for example here, I can just render a button, and as you saw in the UI5 applications, and then I can consume everything more. I can use translation files and other controls in there. So component is really handy tool. I didn't know before that, and you can use it as a TypeScript component as well. So that just the control, again, really simple, hello world. The library also really simple. That's, I think, I didn't even change that one. That's what the easy UI5 generator gave me, really just a simple one. Okay, then we would like to deploy it. Again, it's also really simple because it's basically the same as you do usually. I'm using the Fiori tools to deploy that to the ABAP system. I define the URL, the package, the description, everything you need to know. And then I just can press deploy and it's deployed. So it's, if you look in the root package JSON, I just can define the root package JSON with all the descriptions, how to deploy it, and then everything goes automatically. It's in a mono repo here, so just because I want to have everything in one place, but it doesn't need to be a mono repo. Like usually when I am at a customer, they have separate repositories for every UI5 applications. So you can still clone it locally and use npm link or use pnpm or something similar. So you don't need to have everything in a mono repo. That's really just here to show that for my use case. Oh, there we go. Okay, so as I said, there's everything here in the GitHub repo. I made some documentation and created a development setup here as well, just to show everything how that works. And I have to promote best of UI5 again, because all those nice, really open source packages are available here to use for you. You can just really search, for example, for middleware, and everything here is as well, like your community tooling is here to show. And you can just look for new tooling, for example, for the latest edition, for example, UI5 middleware cup and the surf framework. So everything is usually pretty new. And if you want to stay updated to the newest tooling, just look here because usually it's pretty updated. And ecosystem showcase, that's where a lot of community tooling is living. So Peter is very active there. And if you look at the contributors, it's 52 people. So a lot of people already helping here and make things better to work here. And then here's the deployed version. That's the ABAP trial instance on the Fiori Launchpad. And you've seen all this the custom URLs I used to everything reroute together. But what's really handy with the Launchpad is it's really, you need to configure it that only for the local environment. And when you deploy it, I'm more familiar with the Fiori Launchpad on premise. So that's why it's easier to set it up for me here, but when you deploy it, the app index takes care of everything else. So for example, that's the component locally I had and then deployed. So it's quite small, but everything here is just another new URL. Here's the app component. Here's the library. And for example, if I open the spreadsheet importer, it's a totally different URL as well. So that's because I packaged the component in another component. So that's why a totally different URL. So you don't need to worry about when you deploy the component locally to a different system, just make sure your local Fiori Launchpad works, and then everything else is taken care of by the ABAP system and the index. All right, then just to showcase it actually works, let's change a little bit on the library. For example, the control. So as I said, there is a new button that renders a dialog. Where is my local one? There we go. Because as I said, my step before was to compile the component before that, and then because you had an external dependency, it took quite some time. I can just reload it, and it's there. So it seemed really simple, like, okay, I changed file and then it's there. But for me, it was really a big step to make it really more simple to set it up and make it work for me. So it seemed simple, but it's not. All right, then some remarks to the end. If you've been here yesterday to the recap, there was a keynote, and Daniel talked about setting up the framework and everything. Everything, like for example, the plugin concept was this convention over configuration concept. You just use, for example, CDS plugin UI5 is a cut plugin, so you use it as dependency and it just loads. So that would be my dream if something for that is happening for the UI5 tooling environment as well. Just to plug something in and it just works from an end-to-end perspective. Like it already some steps, for example, the UI5 tooling with the library, you just plug it in and it works. So there's some baby steps going towards, and it seemed like maybe, I don't know what's really in your world, but for me, there are quite some examples where I could reuse that. Like with the spreadsheet importer, this is really like a more extreme example to showcase. So I don't know if that's really a real world example, but I think because of the BTP coming up, a lot of you guys actually experience the same, that you have to connect all the components or the library to work in one seamless way. So as you saw, I had to make some configurations. I had to use the proxy. I had to use the module path to reroute to the right correct location. So thanks again to Gerd, who made the Launchpad sample or merge my PR in the last second to make actually my Launchpad work. Otherwise, it wouldn't work. So that really helped me there. But then the Fiori Launchpad is also great to showcase everything, but then I can't really use the local UI5 libraries. So that's, again, loading from the CDN. It's really pretty slow. So that's really slowing me down again. So it would be really great to have something like a preload or like a local Fiori Launchpad libraries here as well. And then, again, as I said, with the UI5 Fiori tooling, it would be great that these tools get more adaptation. Like you can see in the downloads from the single UI5 as npm.js packages, they're going up. Like as you saw in the CDS Launchpad plugin, I saw the chart really going up. So the adaptation is really great, but it could be better. So that's why I would like to showcase not just the environment, but the tooling you can use to set up your environment like that. And because they're all open source, it would be great to have feedback. Like for example, my spreadsheet importer has a lot of downloads, but I would like to have more feedback. That even though it's open source and free, we want to have a great experience for you all. Like that's in me, as a developer, I would like to have a good experience as a developer and work for the community. So that's why I like to have the adaptation and the use of the available tools. So have a look at the best of UI5, have a look at my GitHub repo, where you can see how I did it. Me and Peter set it up, and maybe you can adapt something for yourself. One last thing, all the tooling Peter is showcasing at 12, the tooling as well in M2 and M1, M2? Yeah. So if you want to know a little bit more about the tooling and how that is set up, you can go to the talk at 12. Or you can just stay here for my next talk, because I'm here at 12 again, showing with Focus some survey we did. And last slide, just the feedback. So it would be really great to get some feedback from you, what you thought about that. And all my GitHub repo and slides on my GitHub repo, and all my other, or the slides and the links are also on that repo. All right, thank you.
Thank you, Marian, for the great presentation. I have a bunch of questions, but I'll let the audience ask first. So who has questions here?
Okay. First of all, thank you again for the great presentation. As I have a similar use case, I'm prepared with a few questions.
Good.
So the first one is about the standalone router. If, for example, each application has a standalone unmanaged router, does it affect the picture?
To be honest, I don't really know about the PTP setup that much. It was like Wouter's thing, because I have like this local environment thing. I was really, that's why I showed more about the ABAP system, because I know more about the ABAP system. How it actually works with the router, I don't know, I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm. But the local environment use case will be not affected for sure, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay, the next question is about the, let's imagine few applications use one and the same backend. Is it possible instead to have this 5 connection to the backend to define just one and to reuse it?
Maybe you saw it in the terminal, they all start separately, but it's still like you load your 5 applications separately, so they still start separately. So you still have to define in the YAMLs for each application.
Okay, and the last question is about loading the UI5 library. I know the answer by Peter, but maybe it will be useful for others if you are using a CDN, how it affects the setup.
It's still loading the UI5 application from the CDN. That's what I said in the last one. That's a big point to improve the performance, to have the libraries locally.
Mm-hmm. Okay, thank you.
Thanks for that, Marian. A simple question, hopefully. I noticed you had the environment variable set up for username password, but I didn't see a .m file. Have you found a secure way to do that?
No, it is a .env file.
Oh, okay, so there's still no secure way to put your password in
quick.
places? I just couldn't see it.
There you go.
There it's here. Yeah.
Click on it, because then you see the password, but it's there.
So just username password manually enter?
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that.
Oh, can I ask a follow-up question? Sorry, I'm not supposed to do that, but I do. Why do you use the end variables here? I thought you use our ABAP to deploy deployment tooling from the OpenUX tools, if I am not mistaken there. And you could also store it simply in your keychain, in your secure repository, and the tools would pick it up from there. So you use deploy to ABAP for the deployment, but you use a password and username from an environment variable. Why don't you store it in your secure storage?
To be honest, I didn't know that was possible.
Neither did I.
I think let's have a follow-up conversation afterwards. Okay, next question. No more questions? Come on. One over there, please.
Yeah, great session. And I saw the repo with the structure. I like the structure. Do you also have plans to make it available in the ECUI5 Yeoman generator by any chance?
Like the creating that structure?
Yeah, so we can use the templating mechanism to create the development environment.
Nico Schönteich has, I think in the afternoon, has a session about, he developed a lot of a new version from the ECUI5 generator. I actually didn't have the chance yet to look at it, how it actually structures, but maybe go to that session what he actually creates, because he changed quite a lot.
Okay, wonderful.
I did a lot of manual work to make everything work in that regard. So for me, it's more like a proof of concept that you can connect everything seamlessly. So the next step would be to make everything smoother and more connected, and maybe use the generator as well. So that was the last slide with the wishes. Make everything more smoother, more connected. Like we already did that. Like if you go back a few years, it was way harder to set everything up, and the UI5 tooling like improved a lot of things. And we just have to give feedback and say, okay, I want to connect that and that. Can you make it somehow easier?
Okay.
Throw to the back, throw to the back. No, raise your arm again, you, and you throw.
Yeah, so probably I have a backend with which uses OAuth for security. It transfers a JOT token. It needs a JOT token for the backend, for instance. So is there any way I can pass the JOT token with this setup? What you've shown currently?
There is a
like
tooling,
create,
right?
Yeah.
Wait a minute. I think let's use best of UI5. Yeah. I thought I had a type authentication, but it's called one login. Yeah. There you go. It's created, I think, initially by Jacob. Yeah. And I think I haven't used that before, but I think that's the one, right, Peter? That's the one you could use for OAuth. Use certificate.
My suggestion would be to use the app router or spin up an app router locally.
UI5 middleware app router.
Maybe that's the one. Yeah. So you can start the app router locally when you provide a default env JSON with binding to the XSUA. That would allow you to log in, and then you have the JOT token, basically.
Okay, great.
So again, there's a tooling for it. So especially if you're not the first one with such a problem, like people already thought about it, and maybe already people created a tooling for it.
Yes, I'm aware of this, the proxy way in general, but I was very curious if there is some tooling similar to the username and password, for instance. If there's something that is available for passing the JOT token without starting the app router. So that was my question, really.
Yeah, you have a look at the tooling, and maybe if there's some enhancement, either raise an issue, or maybe you can develop something to enhance it as well. Like if there's a use case and you want to contribute, that would be great.
Okay.
Any more questions?
Did you have questions?
My questions were also asked already. I wanted to ask as well, will you also create something for Easy UI5 or for the OpenUX tools so you can generate the elements that you're using here? Because it was quite an extensive setup, and I'm pretty sure all of us use or need parts of it. So if you would do some work there, we would all love you for that. And of course, work with you together on it. So my last question is, please also tell us, when is your expert corner today? So when can we talk to you again about this topic?
The expert corner is starting at after my next session, because I'm just around. Find me, I will be there. But yeah, Easy UI5 generator, again, as I said, I used it for everything. No, I used it to set it up. It's just you need to add the dependencies, and you have to know some downsides. For example, there's a little downside in component because on the UI5 YAML, I built a component and then I want to use the component locally from this folder. So to stream the component, I needed to create an empty disk folder.
Yeah, for me, it's always hard to sit here and listen to you answering the questions, yeah, and feeling with you how hard it is. Yeah, honestly, with the Easy UI5, it's like you said, everything is there. It's more the question of these bridges in between. So when you look into the project of Marian, the app is created with the Easy UI5 generator, the library is created with the Easy UI5 generator. The component is also like an app from the Easy UI5 generator. And the most important part, what he did also around, is to connect this and have the mono repository set up. The mono repository is a package JSON which is in the root. You can decide on yourself whether you use npm workspaces, pnpm, yarn, or whatever tool of choice you want to have around. It's at the end, it's the thing which bridges you and brings and connects all these pieces together. And then these toolings, what we have in between, like UI5 middleware, UI5 or so, they just understand if there is a dependency from an application to a component to connect that and get that also in that. Yeah, and that's the point. Yeah, and for sure, we can also think of making this a bit easier, bringing some convenience on top of that. But technically, everything is there. And feel free to also join that. So I invite you, if you have fun and interest in that, then we can also think of making that together.
Okay, let me usher the stage crasher off stage here. Thank you, Marian. Thanks a lot for your presentation. We will see you again in 18 minutes together with another great member of our community, with Volker. And you guys will be telling us more about a survey you made, right? How UI5 is being used, so we can learn a lot about what others are doing and how we also should do it. So enjoy your break and see you again here at 12 p.m.